Allora, per me è stato un grande piacere essere qua stamattina e mi ha fatto molto piacere parlare con voi e di imparare altre cose, di conoscere altre persone e è stato un grande piacere, grazie.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You are more than welcome to this, another episode of the Coffee at 11 show, brought to you by Wigwam and supported by Limerick Post, keeping Limerick posted, hashtag Limerick and proud. Delighted to have you here. Thank you for joining us. And in particular, I'd like to welcome our very special guest, zooming in from South County Dublin today. And that is Jean Evans. Jean, pop in, say hello. Cheers as with your coffee mug.
Good morning, everybody.
It's great to have you here. Just sit back and relax for 30 seconds while I introduce you, if I may, and then we'll have the chat. So Jean Evans is Jean's name, obviously. Business name, Network Me. What does your business do, Jean? Training, coaching, facilitation, speaking, mentoring on business and networking. How long established? Only 7 months, so it's COVID born. How many employees? 3, me, myself and I. Jean Evans is an expert on all things networking. It is her passion and one that is born out of experience of plenty of trial and error, mistakes and mishaps. Through her blogs and social media channels, Jean shares tips, tricks, hacks and ideas on how to become an effective networker in business. And if you're not already following Jean, Eamon will put the links in later and you need to do so. She goes on to say that learning to network is a game changer, was indeed for her, and I can speak for myself, also for me. It's empowering, enlightening. It leads you to self-awareness, which grows confidence, and with confidence, she says, I firmly believe you can achieve anything. And I would tend to agree. And here's something that nobody knows. And having met Jean here for the first time, perhaps if you're meeting her for the first time, you won't guess this one. Jean says, I got to race a Formula 3 race car in Abu Dhabi at the Yas Marina Park a few years ago. Wow, what an experience. Wow, what an experience. Okay. Tim Kelly, we'd resist steering, there you go, see what I did there. We resist steering the conversation towards Abu Dhabi and instead go to Jean Evans. Jean, as we always say to our guests on the Coffee at 11 show, we can and we will Google you, right? We can meet you.
Okay.
But we can meet you anytime as to who you are now, what you're doing now. What we want to know is who were you, little Jean, back in the day in South County Dublin. Please, Greystones, if I'm not mistaken.
Greystones, yeah, County Wicklow, so the Garden of Ireland. So who's Jean? Okay, so where do you even start with that? So I am the eldest and I have 3 brothers. My mom's from Dublin, my dad's from Bray. Grew up in Greystones, so I'm one of probably a few original Greystonians, a lot of blow-ins as the town has expanded and grown over the years. So when I'm originally from there, so my place, I love it. Went to school there, secondary, primary, went to college in UCD, and I did my Erasmus in Turin where I met a boy. And came back, finished my degree, and after I finished, the week after, I moved out to Italy where I had done Erasmus. So I had studied German and Italian and linguistics, dropped the German because couldn't cope with German literature because it's very verbose and morbid. So continued on with Italian and linguistics, extremely useful, and moved over to Italy a week after my graduation. And there in...
If I may,
yeah, go for it.
Forgive me, right? So you've taken us through about 2 decades in about 27 seconds, right? And we don't allow that in the Coffee at 11 show.
Okay,
right?
fair enough.
So we get to that. We go back to Turin and the boy. I'm quite sure everybody's wondering what happened to the boy, right? So we go back there in a little while. Before we go there, if you don't mind, just tell us what was school like for you. You were the eldest. What was school like for you? What were those early years like as a Greystonian? First time I've heard that term.
Greystonian. Honestly, I would say that probably nobody even realizes I was at school because I was so shy. So the back colour of Katrina's wall, I would have turned that colour had somebody talked to me, spoken to me. I melted into the walls before talking to anyone because I was pathologically and paralytically shy. And I remember, just to give you an idea, not only could I not talk to people, I literally was consumed with this. I was just in a bubble of social anxiety. I remember going to something for school in Dalkey, which obviously isn't very far away from Greystones, and being scared that my mum wouldn't be able to find her way home. Like, I mean, I literally was scared of life, scared of everything. I was so unbelievably shy. And when I look back at it now and I see my son, who is my firstborn, I see the first child syndrome, because you've nobody who's forged that path before you and you don't have anybody to look up to. And I would say, you know, within my shyness as well, you know, my parents could come from a particular generation, you know, there wasn't a lot of money going around, and also I suppose they hadn't traveled an awful lot. So one of my things in life is traveling, and what I want to be able to give to my children is the love of travel and how it expands your mind. But you know, when I was growing up, we had a caravan, so we traveled all around Ireland, and I got to see an awful lot around Ireland, and we would just travel around. But we only had two sort of, well, it's not that only, and it's not bad, but we had two foreign holidays going to France camping when I was a child. But there wasn't an awful lot of money going around, and I suppose the extent of where ambition lay was that my dad probably, you know, they thought I was either going to be a secretary or a bank teller. That was all that they could see. And despite my shyness, I also knew I had a fire in me. I didn't know where it was coming from. I didn't really understand it, but I also knew that anytime a teacher told me I couldn't do something, I'd be like, inside, because I didn't have the guts to say anything, inside there was something that would say, don't you tell me what I can do or what I can't do, and I'll show you. So when I was told you should do Pass Irish or you should do this, I was going, I don't think so. Yeah, and just go and do my own thing. So there was always a fire there, but I wouldn't have been able to articulate it or understood what was happening. But so for me, finishing school, like I finished school very young as well. Like I was 17 doing my leaving cert. And
just allow me to pause you there again.
Yeah,
I am so glad I stopped you in your tracks and see Shelley nodding away, right? Because, and in particular because of who you are now and who you present as now, because you're presenting as the network guru, and you're an absolute, ambassador for all things networking today, and you're held in that space, and rightly so. Okay. But we'd never have known that you're pathologically shy as a child, because people would expect, Jean, that you were born like that. Hey, sure, of course, Jean is a perfect networker. Sure, that's just the way she was born. And so the reason I wanted to extract that piece is because it shows all of us and anybody who's listening to this into the future that it's within our power, our bailiwick, to make changes. And I loved the sassy attitude when a teacher would tell you, you know, you shouldn't or you can't, and you're thinking, well, do you know what? You're not the boss of me. Yeah.
And so when people see my children, and particularly I have 3 children, so a son and 2 daughters, and particularly my middle daughter, she's what I call my fully developed personality. But people, when they see her, they go, well, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. And I went, I wasn't like that at her age. Oh my God, was I so not? But she literally is, well, you're not the boss of me. And she'll pass me in the landing in the morning going, I don't like that outfit. And I'm like going, bite me. And so we have all of this going on, whatever. So it's all of this, you know, and I'm like, God. And then she wants to go clothes shopping at 8 years of age, back in the car last week. She goes, can we go clothes shopping? And I'm going, no, we cannot. When you have your own credit card, go mad, feel free, but no. But yeah, so I was 17 when I did my leaving cert, and I didn't get enough points to get into college that time. So I was going to repeat, and then I did get points to get into college, but I was too young really. So I did a bilingual secretarial course, actually, which I'd forgotten I did. So I learned a skill, which I would absolutely, it's one of those things I'm going to get my kids to do. I learned how to touch type, and it is an amazing skill to have in business, to be able to touch type. So for something I would do for my kids is kids can do courses on touch typing. It's such an amazing skill because you can do everything quicker, better, faster. So that's just another aside. But I used to be able to do shorthand. I can't do that now, but I used to be able to do all of these things. And it was good. Then I went into college and I did German, Italian and linguistics. So I majored then in Italian and linguistics, and I'd done Erasmus in Turin, what have you, as I said.
And we're going back to Turin. We're going back there.
We're going back to Turin. Yeah.
So just before you do a couple of, if I may, because I just love the opportunity to listen to different people's stories. And there's a couple of parallels that you and I shared, dare I say it. Both left school at 17, both wanted to get to college and didn't get the requisite points to get into the course we wanted. I wanted to be a school teacher back in the day. That didn't work out. And the other thing was caravans. Yeah, we grew up in caravans. We would probably have driven past your home from the north side of Dublin down to Wexford. And we spent every summer down there in caravans. And we took the odd holiday around Ireland in other parts, also in caravans. And the only thing where you and I differed was we never got a foreign holiday. Everybody say, "Ah."
Oh, and you know, I'd say two of the things that I get, and I look at it now as a parent and back living, because I went abroad for a while, but obviously back living in Greystones, is two of the holidays were in Red Cross. Now, Red Cross from Greystones is 20 minutes down the road, and I look at it now as going, how on earth did my parents get away to bring us some holidays to Red Cross, which is literally 20 minutes down the road? And we would leave the house and we would have to stop for a break for lunch in the Beehive. That is 10 minutes down the road. But I know the roads were different, but like as a child, I thought it was awesome. And we'd be getting our bowls of ice cream. It was the start of the holidays. But now I look at it going, it's literally 10 minutes down the road. And my parents obviously were that traumatized that they had to take a break by then.
I know it. I was just imagining you trying that with your three now. Can you imagine that?
Yeah, no, they're far savvier. They're far savvier than we were. But back to
Turin quickly.
Well, no, I'm going to go back to one of the points that you were sort of saying about the shyness and the way people see you. People see what's on the outside and constantly. We know this thing about don't judge a book by its cover, but really the thing about people is if you judge, that's on you. But every single one of us here today and in the world has our own story and our own journey. And we've all got things that make us tick, that made us who we are today. And we all have our own baggage, whatever it is. We don't put neon sign and broadcast it, but we all do, because it's who made us who we are today. But the difference is understanding whether you're okay with it or whether you're not. And I suppose where I'm at now in my life is I've learned to accept me for who I am and realize I'm okay. But I will also say that when I was 15 years in school, I went to St. David's, and I remember being in one of the classrooms looking over the sea, and remember thinking, it's an odd thought for a 15-year-old, I grant you, but I remember thinking, I am not going to feel comfortable in my own skin until I'm in my 40s. Which is sort of a deep thought at 15. I'm now 45, but I'm only feeling like I'm starting to come into who I'm supposed to be. And that's taken a long time. So,
yeah, well done. And thank you for sharing that 30-year journey to date since that thought. And Eamon, thanks for the Bula Bus kicking that off. Fully agree with you in relation to that. I again had a similar experience. I stayed back a year in 6th class because it was that little. I think my mother kicked me out very young. My older sister is 11 months older than me, so I think when she was getting rid of one of them to school, she decided, well, 2 for the price of 1, and I was kicked out. So I was too young to get into secondary, and so I stayed back in 6th year. And I remember leaving the journey between 6th class and secondary and realizing I'd actually been a sap in primary school and had been picked on a bit. And I remember deciding that I can actually be anything I want in secondary. So so I'm on the same page as you are, Jean. And of course, we're still evolving, you and I, and indeed everybody who's here in the cafe today. Really interesting. You got me curious about Turin now. We've got to go back to Turin, please.
So Turin, yeah, do you know what? When I was pregnant with my daughters, I thought, oh my God, daughters, girls, right? They're going to be in chastity belts in 25 before I let them out. So that was that. And if I ever tell my daughters how I met my boyfriend, the guy who became my boyfriend, we ended up going out for 4.5 years. And he followed me out to a pub on a late night on a Friday at 11 o'clock at night, and literally followed myself and my friend walking out to the pub for 1 kilometre. Now, if you say that out loud and you say that, it sounds like, holy Christ, what did you do? But like, this is God, what age was I? Was 19 or would have been 19. So it's a long time ago. Like, but now somebody did that, and I heard my daughter saying that. I tell you, I'd never let them out again. But it was, times were different, and we met, and he's from the south of Italy in Puglia, in a place called L'Aquila, which is just outside Lecce, and Italians are very strict in the way they do things in terms of their cultures and when they have their cappuccinos and their cafe and what have you. So you don't have cappuccinos technically after 11 o'clock in the day. So 11 o'clock at night, we went into this pub and I ordered a cappuccino and my friend ordered a pint, and he'd never seen a girl drinking a pint. So there was two for the price of one, and he was like going, what on earth are these? And we were total, like, you know, heathens to this sort of Italian culture and the way things were done. But that was the start of it, and then we ended up going out for 4.5 years. But that's why I moved back to Turin, and I was teaching English. And one of the funny things in cultures and the different cultures and stuff like that. But at 21, even though I had spent all of my summers at college working in Germany and Austria, so I had German, I had Italian, I had English, I was graduated. At 21, there is no Italian who has graduated. They're still living at home and still at college at 28 or 29. And so therefore, they could not comprehend how you could be graduated and have other languages at 21. So I wasn't technically employable in their culture. So I worked in an English school, and that was fine. I was doing that, working hard. Then I had also, as part of college, I had got onto the European Orientation Programme through IBEC, and I started getting interviews for getting onto that sort of apprenticeship. And at the time they paid 10,000 punts and 10,000 pounds as it was back then. And it was pre-Euro. And I had got an offer of a job in Parma, but I didn't want to go down that far because I'd only just moved to Turin. But then I got an offer of a job in Bortfolce in Milan. So I headed up to Milan and ended up there for a number of years. So I was supposed to stay for 1 year as a travel advisor for the Irish Tourist Board, and worked really hard at that. Was told it's just a year, it went fine. And got a contract extension then for 10 months. And then there was a trade rep, or what they call a responsabile commerciale, and that job position came up. So I went for the interview, got that. So did that for a number of years. So between Bortfolce and Northern Ireland Tourist Board, in Milan for all of Italy, then also for Greece, Malta and Cyprus, we did all of the relationships of building the tour operator relationships with Ireland and Northern Ireland, getting the packages sold, doing the site inspections, bringing journalists over, managing the media, and sort of growing different products in Ireland. So whether it was wellness or golf or just general tourism. So I loved that. So I always had a grow for Ireland anyway, and getting people to travel around and see it. But I was also very privileged to have seen from the top of Donegal right down to Mizenhead and everything in between. So I love Ireland, and that sort of translated back into my children now. I send them to the Gael school because I really want them to understand their heritage and have that side of things. That it's important to me that they know where they're from and have the languages, but also that there's no taboo on Irish, there's no taboo on the languages, and that it starts expanding, lateralizing the brain and how they look at things. Because I suppose when they look at STEM, they say, you know, the more languages you have, the better you cope with sort of STEM subjects. So I have all of this. I have a great blueprint in my head for what's going to happen to my children. They're going to get a great education. They're going to get great jobs. I'm going to retire, and they're going to keep me in the style I want to be accustomed to.
and you know what? You're training them well. You're training them well.
Yeah. I also think I'm going to get a PFO at some point soon.
All right, come here. Very rich journey. And again, going back to being pathologically shy in early school, and then making a decision, I can be anything I want to be at 15, and then stepping out into the big wild, open world, and finding your feet and finding the next Gene Evans, if you like, in that period. So I still can't square the circle around you being shy, albeit working on it and working proactively on being less shy or appearing less shy, and you running effectively a trade mission for Ireland Inc. in Milan. What was your role there? What was a typical week? Were you hosting people? Were you attending conferences?
So at the start, I was travel advisor. So I would be literally welcoming the public coming in and asking me all sorts of weird and wonderful questions about Ireland. And honestly, you know, what language do you speak? And do you have washing machines? And just all of these questions that I get asked. And my son's in Dublin, he's got a toothache, and I'm looking at her going, not sure what you really want me to do about that. How about he calls a dentist and I'm here and he's there? No? You know, and you're just looking at 21 going, seriously, are you really asking me these questions? So I used to get really smart going, we speak Russian. no, we don't speak, you know, and I just go to town on some of the things that people used to ask me. I was just like, oh, lads, seriously, you're 2 hours away, but you think that you're on Mars. But so I used to enjoy it. So I used to travel an awful lot around Italy and all around these countries, and I had to do a lot of presenting. So we would do trade shows for tour operators where we would go and train about Ireland. So we would go up to maybe Padua, we'd be into Turin, we'd go down to Bari or up to Rome or Naples, we'd go over to Catania. So we'd literally be traveling all around and doing these road shows for tour operators. So I would have to get up and speak. So that was sort of where it started, where I had to learn to communicate. And I was doing it through Italian, which I loved anyway, and I discovered I loved languages. And I just enjoyed that. And then after 6 years living in Italy, I got sufficiently disenfranchised with the bureaucracy. Have some fantastic friends there, but I said, right, I'm going to go to Spain and learn Spanish and work in a bar. But 2 jobs came up in New York for Tourism Ireland. So I had since transitioned to Tourism Ireland in 2001 because of the North-South peace process. And so Tourism Ireland became the body abroad that marketed the island of Ireland, so incorporated the whole country literally as the island. And so I moved over to that because I was working in the markets, and 2 jobs came up in New York. One was business tourism and one was the trade job that I was already doing in Milan. So I said, right, I'm going to go for the business tourism one, and if I get it, grand, and if I don't, I'm going to go to Spain. So winged my way back to Ireland, did the interview, got the job. Came back to Ireland again then because I had to process my visa for going to the States, and I was based out in New York. But at that point, so I'd since split up from Italian boyfriend, and I got together with another guy who 6 weeks before I moved to New York, which is poxy time, and don't actually recommend that. So he travelled an awful lot and I travelled an awful lot. So he'd be in New Zealand and I'd be in San Francisco, and the times were just dreadful. So after a year of going back and forth in transatlantic, I had bought a house with him after 6 months and all sorts of different things. And then I got headhunted for a job back. So in New York, I was developing business tourism. So it was incentive travel coming into Ireland and traveling all around the States and trying to deal with incentive houses and what they call destination management companies to encourage them to choose Ireland as a destination, because it's fierce competition, because you've got a whole world that people can choose to travel to. So part of our job was to fly the Irish flag. And so I loved that. And came back to Ireland then, and there was a convention bureau in Dublin. So there's one in Limerick, the Shannon Convention Sports Bureau. There's one in Cork now, but the Dublin one was the first one. And somebody had started something, but it hadn't really taken off. So I was brought in and I did that for 5 years. And I loved that. So again, that was sort of putting Dublin on the map for conferences, meetings and events. And every big city basically around the world where they want conferences and events into the city, they have a convention bureau to market the city and to develop that business case, to bring in the journalists, to bring in potential clients, to showcase what there is to offer around the hotels, the suppliers, to set up meetings and stuff like that, and to be that trade liaison. So I did that for 5 years and built up a team. So, my stakeholders were, Dublin Tourism, the Irish Hotel Federation, Dublin City Council, Fáilte Ireland. So I had a large board that I reported into for that. And there was changes then, and there was one of the guys on the board that honestly we didn't see eye to eye at all. And at one point he said to me, Jean, quite literally, round peg, square hole, we're going to make this fit. And he just slammed his fist in front of me, and I was like, right, quick exit left, we're not putting up with that. So off I went, and as it happens then I got approached for another job, and I became what's called a PCO. I became a professional conference organizer for 10 years, and I worked with a company, international, and so 60 offices around the world, and I got to travel the length and the breadth of the world, whether it was having mate in Montevideo in Uruguay, having cocktails on Tabletop Mountain in Cape Town, going to the top of the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. I just did so many things, going around boat trips around Hong Kong. I had amazing experiences and I loved it. It was extremely tiring, but I loved it. And did that In the midst, sorry, I just have to put another parallel then, as life is happening at the same time. So the guy that I got together with New York, before I went out to New York, I was also a stepmom to his daughter for 7 years, and we then got married, but it was a very, very short marriage, and we only ended up being married 21 months, and 12 of which I was trying to work out, how do I finish this, because it's not working, it's not right. So that was sort of happening as well. Then I met my partner, and then he told me, sorry, I realize this is being broadcast publicly, but it's one of those moments you're sort of unleashing different things. And one of the reasons it took me 12 months to break up my marriage is because, one, I thought I was getting married for life. Two, I literally, it was so hard. But I also thought, what if I don't meet somebody, and what if I don't have kids? And I went through literally a year of grieving, not knowing what was going to happen. But then it came to realization, do I live with this pain, or do I work out how to be self-sufficient, resilient, and work out how to be okay on my own? So that's what I did, and I left him, and he was not very happy about it at all. But I just sort of said to him, listen, this is going to go one of two ways. It can go amicably or not, but I will not make that choice. We're not going to be together, but you're going to choose how this rocks out and how this works out. And he did, and he made it very acrimonious. And what did I do then? So then when I met Brian, who's my partner, we're together 11 years now, and he sat in a car park after about 3 months being together, looking at a stone wall in Lidl car park. So this is a really good time to unleash this news. And he goes, I don't think I can have children. And I'm like, oh, holy God, I've just left somebody and thinking, what if I don't have children? Met somebody and you're thinking you can't have children? I was like, stop, you're killing me. Anyway, a couple of months later, I was pregnant. So, so he was wrong there. So
June, just let me pause you there. Thank you for sharing all of that. And we probably should have forewarned you that when you get into the hot seat in the Coffee at 11 show, it just allows stuff to come out. And none of this was planned. This is supposed to be...
No, it certainly wasn't.
No, it wasn't. But this is supposed to be a business interview. But the whole idea of the Coffee at 11 show is to meet the people behind the business.
Yeah.
Because part of the problem, dare I say it, is people meet Jean Evans in a professional environment, and they see this really well put together, has her shit together individual, knows where she's going, knows, right? And they don't get to know that you had to craft every step of the way. You had to, and they don't get to know the stops and starts. And that description of staring at a wall in a little car park, I mean, not the most romantic of moments. Even for the news that was being shared. So thank you for that. That's huge. And you see, here's the thing. Shelley mentioned this will go to an audience of over 17 million potential souls. We've no idea who needs to hear this, but somebody out there needs to hear Jean Evans and needs to say, that's my life. I'm right there at this moment in time. She pushed through. I'm going to push through too.
Yeah. So, and that's one of the reasons why, like when I start different aspects, when I'm talking to people about networking, different aspects come out as I feel that they're important to people. But one thing I've learned is I have to be me and you have to do you, and we have to be okay with that. And most of us are not okay with who we are because we think we're not good enough and we're not enough. And the reason I say that is I spent 20 years or more thinking that I wasn't good enough. So when I was in my career, I kept going up and up and up. I managed teams, and when I became a professional conference organizer, started in August 2008, had a small team, had to build it up. And by 2016, I had a team of 26 because we had an extremely busy year, and it was horrendous, far too many people for one person to manage, and it was constant circle of HR. But I was also on the management team. I was on a European management team. I was on a mentoring program, as a mentor in the company, and I had chaired some of the national associations within our sector. I'd started a conference, and I had done, so on paper, people would say, you've done, absolutely. And I did, and I had these achievements, but I still felt I was not enough. I still felt less than, and I still didn't think I didn't understand my value because I didn't really believe in myself. And that's not what people saw, because what I did for my job then as well is not only managing a team and doing presenting, I would do pitching and bidding. So part of my job, I only worked with associations. So basically the process for getting association to a country or a city is the same as the Olympics. So you are bidding against cities or countries. So, you know, I was over in 2012 in Jeju in Korea, bidding against China and Brazil, and literally, you know, going into an auditorium where there was 1,000 Chinese sitting there going, "We are China, we are China," and I have to get up, little 5'3" me, and in front of a lectern and go, "Here's Ireland's business case," whatever. And the Brazilians coming up, "Oh, we've got the weather, you've got no chance of winning," and literally all of this subterfuge and this sort of these mind games. And we blew them out of the water. But that was what I loved doing. And we brought these conferences in, and, you know, weird and wonderful topics. You know, this particular one was for 3,500 pig veterinarians to come into the country. And 2 days before that, I had done one in Lisbon and getting 4,000 cow veterinarians into the country. But the point was putting Ireland on the map and selling it and doing all of these things and getting in front of auditorium or auditoria in front of thousands of people and delivering and talking about what Ireland has to offer. And what people conflate and get wrong every single day of the week is they think shyness, being an introvert, which I am an introvert, so being shy and being an introvert and confidence are the same thing. And I'm going, they're not at all. You can be shy and be an introvert and be confident in what you're talking about. And I was confident in what I had to deliver, but it wasn't about me. And I could get up and I could deliver and I could speak and I could put the business case together and I could put it all together and present it. And I was very confident, not that you're not nerves talking, but I was very confident in my ability to deliver something because I believed in it in my heart and soul. And I knew we had the best offer, the best product. And sometimes you won, sometimes you didn't, but you go for it again. And that's just the cycle of associations. But the reason I say that is because you know, lots of other things happened, and I was doing a one-to-one this morning with somebody, and it was just again the conversation went a little bit random. But one of the things that I've learned now in accepting who I am, I've a lot stronger sense and a set of values that were always there and beliefs that were always there. They're right here now, that I am unequivocal about them and I won't compromise them. Whereas if I listen to some of the things that happen to me now, and I was mentoring a young woman or a young man coming up, or anybody who was facing some of the things that I faced, I would be able to manage them, but I couldn't manage myself. And the reason I say that is because I had Jamie, who's my eldest, he'll be 10 in July. Then I had Catherine, so she's 21 months younger. And when I came off maternity leave, I left and I was on a local management board. I was managing a team and I was doing all these other things. When I came back, they had changed my seat, they changed my role, they'd taken me off the management team, and they had given my job to my operations director, who I had hired in. Didn't tell me a thing about it. Now, I was loyal to a fault to this company, and they did all of these things. And I was angry for a couple of years, but now if I look back on it now, and I'd had the conviction, I would have done something about it. Because you, as a woman coming back from maternity leave, you're already emotional and vulnerable. My middle child, she didn't sleep till she was 3, literally didn't have one full night's sleep till she was 3. And so was constantly tired. And you're emotional, and I was feeding and stuff like that. And when you're treated like this, you don't have the emotional bandwidth to do anything about it. And no woman should feel or be made to feel like that. And then 2015, I had a miscarriage. And again, I was sort of what I would look at a hindsight. Again, I when I say I was loyal to a fault, like I look at it back and now going, what on earth did you let them do that for? Well, I couldn't see it or do it. I was too emotional. I was too loyal to them. But I had a bad miscarriage and they didn't give a shit, excuse the French, but they just didn't. And 2016, had a really busy year, got pregnant again, and my doctor signed me off. And literally from that moment, I wouldn't have been able to travel. I was ill. I didn't have a very comfortable pregnancy at all. And then I went straight into mat leave, but I got treated like a pariah. And I was going, like, I had made this company a lot of money. I had done a lot, and literally blood, sweat and tears. And I had done so much for them. And I literally, then they wouldn't talk to me.
Wow.
And I left thinking, wow, people have been celebrated leaving, going to new jobs and this, that and the other. And it was the first time I actually voiced it was this morning, and that's why I suppose it's fresh. But I was so embarrassed. I was so embarrassed being treated like this after how hard I had worked for this company.
Yeah.
And how I was treated, and that's why, and the reason I say it is it's not a pity party or a victim thing. I don't want other people to go through this. I don't want other young professionals, male or female, to feel less than. I don't want them to. I want them to learn who they are, learn their values and their beliefs. And one of the things I signed up to recently is a thing called Certified Proud. And this slight digression, but I'll bring it back to what my point is. But Certified Proud basically is for companies can go in, be part of a community and get audited to make sure that they are actually inclusive. Their policies and handbooks and everything is inclusive to all people, no matter who you are, color, religion, ethnicity, persuasion, whatever. This is about LGBTQ+. And for most of us, we would have grown up in Ireland where it was white Catholic, and it's far more multicultural today, which is fantastic. But we also grew up where there was male and female, man and woman, boy, girl. That's what we knew, what we grew up with. But now there are 17 different gender identities that we know of. And yet we don't know enough about them to accept them into the workplace. And even if you're gay or lesbian, a lot of people go back, and even if they're out, they go back into the closet when they go for jobs because of retribution, because they don't feel they're going to get listened to. They're not going to get the same opportunity. And, as a woman, you've come across so much bias and unconscious bias. And, I used to be in the boardroom management meetings. And if you're anyway passionate, you're emotional. And I'm going, no, women are more emotional and more emotive. That's not wrong. And me standing up for my team is not wrong. But now I would say, sorry, don't go there. Whereas I probably didn't have, I knew I had a fire about it. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't know how to do something about it. I didn't have those skills. And that's where part of what I do now in networking, people think, yes, it is about networking as business. But what I've realized is that when I got made redundant, as I was saying, at the end of 2017, and so literally coming off the back of maternity leave, I'm still feeding, I'm hormonal, 2 other toddlers going around, they go, and you've no job. And you're going, fantastic. Wonderful timing, thanks for that. And started working with my other half. He is business and managed print, learned a whole new industry.
Again, if I may just invite you to catch your breath there for a second, because it's a wild ride. It's a wild ride. But there's a couple of things that I just want to not lose sight of, if you don't mind. And you and I have touched on this peripherally in conversations in the past. It's around women in leadership roles. There aren't enough. You've been very honest about the imposter syndrome that you suffered, that nobody would have known was going on. I'm using that phrase. I hope it's the right one. But nobody would have known what was going on, that you weren't feeling enough, but in fact you were demonstrating to be more than enough. A phrase that came up in recent times, I think it might have been in conversation with you or people that we both know, is that society talks of working moms, but never talks about working dads.
Yeah.
And it's just a problem, right?
Hugely.
And the fact that you said the reality is, I've just had a baby, I am emotional. Get over it. It's just the way it is. Women are more emotional than men anyway. So we got to learn to figure out how to work with the strengths that each of us exhibits, as opposed to picking on what appear to be weaknesses, because they're not. I'm just certified proud. Love that. I love that idea of certified proud.
Yeah.
And it's been a very rich journey, a huge amount of twists and turns. And I'm so glad you allowed yourself open up with us here today, because it would have been far too easy just to come in and say, yeah, running this networking organization, this is what I do, and good luck and thanks. Here's my contact details. Now we know what led you to the role that you're in today.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I think that I only decided I wanted to go into teaching networking in September, and then really sort of started doing something about it in October. But one of the reasons I did it, I had so many different epiphanies, and when I realized what had happened to me, I thought, God, if everybody could take a slice of this cake, they can accomplish anything. Because what I realized was when I stepped out of the corporate world after 22 years, having been made redundant, I had to discover, who am I? I said, what do I stand for? What is my voice? And if I don't have a business card and I don't have a company and I don't have an infrastructure and the accounts department, legal department, HR, and all the different departments behind me, who am I? And that's what I realized when I walked into a room the first time to go networking. It was one of the most vulnerable experiences of my life because I had to put me on the line. So it wasn't at a lectern spouting off about a bid and about Ireland, this, that, and the other. This was now me. And that I realized was a journey. And then after about 3 years, I went, wow, I feel like before, you know, it was a 10 million euro department, 26 people. I went 3 years later, when it was me, myself and I was far more confident because I was far more self-aware. And the other thing that I learned was, well, I learned lots of things, but one of the things I realized was I'm an introvert. And why that mattered was I spent all those years thinking I wasn't good enough because I wasn't the social butterfly. I couldn't be that person who was out and about all the time talking to people. And I was in an industry, paradoxically, that where there was a lot of entertainment and had to be out at gala dinners, but I literally would be looking for the exit door going, how quickly can I get out of here? To be in a hotel room, having room service of my own. And people say, oh, I don't like to travel on my own. I'm going, I love it because I don't have to talk to people. And while I love talking to people and I love networking, I also very, very happy on my own. Mm-hmm. But that's where being an introvert was realizing this, that I have to psych myself up. I can put on my A game and absolutely bring it. And then I have to go away and replenish my energy, because how I and every other introvert in the world replenish their energy is on their own, in their own head. And here's the thing, that what people don't realize and why I am so passionate and vociferous about this is 50% of the world is introverts, and most people don't know it. So they're suffering because they don't realize this fact. And for any introverts who are listening, it is your superpower. And if you understand what it means to be an introvert and you accept it, you own it, you love it, and realize, let me put you in good company if you are an introvert. Barack Obama, Clinton, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Darwin, Einstein, Beyonce, all of these people who are introverts. And do you know what it means? They tap into a sense of, they take information from different places, they mull on it and they ponder and they spend time on it, and then they come up with something. That's where creativity comes from in organizations, in businesses. So there's lots of people sort of in engineers or accountants or whatever. They're very, very happy and very, very confident behind an Excel sheet and a computer. Don't ask them to talk to other human beings.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And of course, don't forget to add in Gene Evans into that list of world leading.
It is the superpower.
World leading introverts.
Yeah.
Wonderful stuff. I was actually heard a lot about me in that too, because I'm out there meeting people the whole time, but I absolutely love my own company. Like anybody who knows me at a deep level, my default is I'm out of here. Leave me alone. With my pet crow Gimpy, you can probably hear in the background. Listen, come here. We need to get to everybody's favorite part of the show, the Princess Shelley piece, in just a moment. Before we do there, Jean, it's been an absolute joy having you here today.
Oh, pleasure.
A wide-ranging conversation.
Yeah, unexpectedly wide.
There you go. You didn't do your research. Anyway, we lure people into the trap. Oh, did I say that in front of Jer White, who's coming in a few weeks? Anyway, but look, it's been lovely. 2 quick questions, and then we go to Princess Shelley, if that's okay, to hear what's going on in the cafe. First question is, Jean Evans, what are you taking with you from COVID that you're not letting go of?
One thing I have learned is, so I was working on a different business venture, something else I was going to do before September, and I pulled out of it. And when I wrote the email saying I was pulling out of a deal that I had been working on for 15 months, I literally sat back and went, I have no idea what my future holds. But I was very, very calm and very, very much at peace. And if that had been 3 years ago, I would have been having a meltdown and a conniption. So what I've learned about myself is I'm very resilient and adaptable, as we all are. We just don't all kind of test it at the same time. But I had a new strapline, and my strapline was poor but free. And I went, free, loving it, never going to work for a corporate, never going to be answerable to anybody. And I want to create a business and a company and fashion it in the way I believe and how people should be treated. and help to mentor and grow people so that they can that they can thrive and succeed. But what I took out of it is I can do anything I set my mind to. I'm perfectly adaptable, and I've loved spending time with my kids. Still don't need to see them all the time. Probably seen them too much over the last few months with lockdowns and schools off. But is that we can do what we want. And, you know, I'm president of Network Ireland Wicklow this year. And my theme for this year is, to all of the ladies within the network, is dream big, because the only people who will not make it happen is each and every one of us. And particularly for women in some of the female networks, is we are accountable and responsible for creating our visibility, and that visibility that we create, and that's our responsibility, each and every one of us, that will drive our both our confidence and our success. And you know, that when it comes to equality and anything like that, we are responsible for driving that, and we need men to be our champions. And back to Colin's point around the parenting, we need more men to say they are parents, more men to step up saying, I am the dad. And you know why? And this is another one of my things, is that parent is a gender neutral term. It is not mother. It's gender neutral. Took two to make the child, but yet when it comes into organizations, companies, it's the mom who gets the call. Why? Oh, yeah. Women need to change that and step up and say, sorry, we need to balance that. Men need to stop abdicating and balance out saying, yes, I want to be a parent. I want to do the lunches. I want to do the school pickups. And when the kids got lice, or somebody's got a tooth out, or somebody's broken their arm, dad can help as well.
I fully agree.
Men are amazing. They just don't realize it.
I fully agree. This has come up very recently on the Coffee at 11 show, and I said it, that there are certain people who've come onto the Coffee at 11 show, and we've all got views on this particular topic. And I reckon we need to do a Coffee at 11 show special around this particular topic. So consider yourself booked, okay? Second question. Before 60-second answer for this one, if you don't want, because we need to get to Shelley, is you meet somebody on the street or in a networking environment or online or whatever, and you realize by listening to them, they are actually struggling at this moment in time because of all that's gone on the last 15, 16 months. What's your advice?
To talk to somebody. And, you know, I'm a huge advocate of one-to-ones. And one-to-ones, there's a whole business connotation around them, but it's about getting to know the person behind the person, and meet up, have a coffee, and be kind and be compassionate. And particularly now, with everything that people are going through, people are so quick to judge. That person didn't get back to me, they didn't respond to my email, they didn't answer my call, whatever. So what? Ring them again, write another email. You don't know what's going on in their lives. We don't know what's going on in our own lives half the time. Be kind, be compassionate. Pay it forward, buy a cup of coffee, say, listen, meet you for a coffee, have a chat, problem shared, problem halved.
Thoroughly beautiful, thoroughly beautiful. Thanks indeed, David. David Brown there leading the charge of the Buddha bus. Jean, fantastic, lovely having you here. Princess Shelley, what's been going on?
Wow, so many amazing comments. Jean, you are an amazing woman. You brought us on the most amazing journey, you know, and this is why Colin is just, you know, I was nodding and he totally took the words that I went through and said, I'm so glad. He kind of said, whoa, Pony, stop there now a sec. And he just, we got brought back to meet little Jean and how shy she was. And I saw the cafe change immediately. Everybody couldn't believe how shy you had begun your journey, you know. Ger White is in the cafe, kicked off the comments saying, Jean made me smile, but then sad at how shy a person can be. And I felt that sentiment throughout the cafe. And that's what makes this such a beautiful place to be on a Friday, is we get to know the people that call into the cafe, and we can see as we're listening into your conversation that emotion that's shared is just stunning. Katrina said that she loved that despite the shyness there was a backbone. And Jean, that was when you were telling us about the teacher and saying, don't you think you can tell me what my, you know, and you were challenging these limiting beliefs that others had of you, and you would expect that would land heavy on a child so young, so early on in their journey, and you were like, hang on a minute now. So even though you were so so shy and introverted, you still had that passion, that fire in your belly. And I could see that inspiring the cafe, Jean. It was lovely. And Katrina commented on that. Ger came back in then to mention, looking forward to having you on the show, Ger. It's great that you're here. Ger says you mentioned about the first child, and you see that in your kids now, that first child, that you've brought awareness to the first child, following an unknown path is what you said. And I could see, and I felt that resonate. I'm number 1 of 4. So I felt that. And then you mentioned, and the laugh in the cafe, Jean, when you said, and I meet was it your 8-year-old daughter? And she says, I don't like your outfit. And you're like, bite me. Well, we all fell around laughing with that, Jean. Sabrina Jamas, hey Sabrina, great that you're here. And Sarah Wood, they all said, I love it. I absolutely love that. So you really got us all laughing with that. I found it so funny just to imagine, I can imagine her saying that, and then your response, just brilliant. Then, Jean, you brought us through the typing, the touch typing that you've done. And Jerrigan said that her dad insisted that he learn that, and he's forever grateful that she can do that, So like you say, a really, really key skill. It's not something I can do, and I would love to be able to do it. So here you are, you're gifting your children this intention that they're going to have this skill. So love that. Then, Jean, you brought us over to this idea. Again, you give us all a giggle about going on holidays 20 minutes down the road, and we were all laughing. And this is why it's so great to have Colm is such a great host to be able to talk this out with you, because as you said, you had no intention of visiting this area, And Eamon was saying, when we were kids, our summer holidays was a trip 7 miles up the road to Laytown Beach in Meath for a couple of weeks. Magic memories. So yeah, and then you said how, and again, I felt it in the cafe when you said you were 15 years of age, and that you knew that you weren't going to grow into yourself and be, own yourself, if you like, own it, until you were in your 40s. And here you are now. We get the pleasure of sharing this space with you, and you're like totally owning it. And Eamon said, he's our Kerry guru. Eamon says, I'm on the planet almost half a century, and I've only just begun to figure out now who I'm going to be when I grow up too. And David Brown, then the WordPress guy, hey David, great that you're in the cafe, delighted you've made it. David said, that's me too. So he's approaching a similar vintage, Jean, and saying that's me too. So thanks for that. Did you want to say anything to the boys in response to that, Jean?
Oh, well, you get better with age for sure. The only thing is, every time I get up now these days, something else creaks and aches. So that's something I need to work on. Not loving that bit. And I think then from the female perspective, and again, it's not something that gets really talked about, but again, also something that women need to get better talking about. And I'll tell you how men will benefit from this is women need to understand perimenopause, because we suffer from it for 10 to 12 years before menopause actually hits. So we actually need to understand that, and why men, you need to make sure that your women do understand it, is you'll get the impact of
they're living with it,
all the bits and pieces and all the hormones and what have you. So there's we need to be better, and you know what, with everything, what I've definitely learned in life is the more you talk about things, the less taboo there is. And when there's no taboo in things, you just say, I'm dealing with this, having a crap day, move on, nothing to see. And we just need to get better at stop hiding behind things and realize we're all going through different journeys for different reasons. It may be an illness, it may be caring for somebody, whatever, and even COVID, and this is the whole thing about it. Everybody's going through something, we just don't broadcast it, but we need to be better at accepting that it's okay to be going through whatever we're going through, and not hide it, reject it, and feel that we are less than. That is something we need.
Normalize it.
Debunk and demystify, and the only way you do that is by talking about it.
Thanks for that, Jean. Really great response. Thank you. Normalise it. Yeah, I agree, Tim. Bull of us. Thank you, Tim Kelly, for that. So then we mentioned how you were saying, oh my God, I can't believe we've gone into such depth today. And Eamon Smith said the magic of the hot seat. We get to know the person behind the brand. And Katrina said it's rarely a business interview. And that's what we love about the conversations. People worth meeting in the Coffee at 11 show. It rarely ends up to be a business interview. And of course, that's down to Colm and the great conversational skills that he has with the wonderful guests that come on. So that's so great. Donal O'Leary, who's a regular in the cafe, it's always so great to have you here, Donal. I love sharing your comments. Donal says, you're clearly so reflective. Shyness leads us to a deeper reflection, maybe. You've got lovely language, Jean, like melted into the walls, you mentioned, and paralytically shy as opposed to paralytically drunk. So Donal had an appreciation for that, so thanks for that comment, Donal. Donach is joining us in Scotland, and he related a few times, Jean, to when you were talking about the difference between shy and introverted, but also confident, like passionately confident. And Donach popped in a couple of times. The first thing he said is, Coffee at 11 is where the real people hang out. Business fits around the person, the real authentic person. And he comes back in a moment. I'll come back to his other comment. So Sabrina was saying, definitely, when you were saying about you can still be confident but introverted, you know, and you can still be shy but still go out there to bring your A game, as you said. That's the term you used. Eamon said confidence can be learned. Ger White liked when you said you were feeling emotional going back to work, and you said emotional bandwidth to deal. She loved that phrase, so I can imagine, and that stood out to me as well, because it's important, you know, emotional bandwidth. We've only got so much, and when we run out of that, we run out of it. So Donal liked that as well, emotional bandwidth. Great phrases like water out of a pipe. So he appreciated that. Donach in Scotland, who I just spoke to about a moment ago, said shy people are creative and don't like being judged, but when they believe in something, that's when the passion comes out. So I think he could relate to what you were saying with that. Yvonne Murray is in the cafe. It's really wonderful to have you here, Yvonne. Yvonne says, so many likenesses between us, Jean. Thanks so much for telling your story. So really, this is what it's all about, and it's going to go out on Sunday week to even more people. So thank you for that comment, Yvonne. Sabrina says they're absolute idiots. This was in relation, Jean, to your previous employers that totally underestimated you and undervalued you. She said, no reflection on you whatsoever. Your story really resonates with me. Thank you so much for sharing. So thank you for being here, Sabrina, and thank you for your comment. At that point, Jean, Eamon Smith popped up all your links. So I've already reached out. Your Facebook link is there, your LinkedIn, your Instagram and your Twitter. So guys, if you click on the three dots at the bottom, then you can access Jean and everything there on her links. Katrina said, who's our editor, Jean, you're giving me so much in this show, both personally and in my role as the editor. This is my new favourite. So great, love hearing that. And I can see Katrina nodding away with that. So David said, it sounds like Jean is done more in 10 years than I have done in 40. Your journey's been so much. I was listening to the jobs, Jean, and I was like, wow, that is a dream job. You're there. And Brazil, when you said Brazil are like, oh, we've got the climate, and you're like, it just sounds like the tourism Olympics, and you came home with the gold medal. I mean, you just made it sound so amazing. I was like, these people don't know these jobs exist. If they did, everybody would want them. It was just, you're an absolute rock star. I just love it. So thank you so much for that. Before I invite a question, you said something, and this is just purely indulge me. You said something really blasé at one stage, talking about when you were in Italy, and you said, oh, this Irish tourism board, they call it, and you blurted out about 4 words in Italian, and it sounded so beautiful. I think the Irish lilt with the Italian accent. She knows what I'm going to ask. So say something, please, just indulge me. It's really nice to be here this morning, or thank you for whatever. Just say something for us that we can relate into the Coffee at 11 show. One sentence in Italian, because you made it sound so beautiful. Go.
Allora, per me è stato un grande piacere essere qua stamattina, mi ha fatto molto piacere parlare con voi e di imparare altre cose, di conoscere altre persone, è stato un grande piacere, grazie.
Wow, what did you say?
I just thought it was a pleasure to be here this morning, to get to know you, to have the conversations, that was a pleasure.
Wow, excellent. Absolutely excellent. Thank you so much, Jean. Thank you. You've been absolutely fantastic. Can I invite a question? Anybody wants to raise their hands? We've just got time for one quick question. Eamon's waving and doing a dance. Eamon actually said he loved, I saw him doing all this dancing when you said about dads need to step up, and Eamon just sings this masculine energy. You know, he said as an independent dad of 5, running a business and parenting full-time, he couldn't agree with you more. Eamon, do you want to unmute and ask a question to Jean just before I hand back to Colin?
Sure, thanks, Shelley. Jean, thank you so much for this morning.
Thank you.
Before I ask the question, I just can't endorse you enough for what you said about guys. It's about the masculine energy, and it's about the need for the men to step up and fulfill their role in the woman's life as well, while women are becoming this age of empowering, and women rightly being put back in the positions that should never have been taken from them in the first place. Frankly, that's another conversation. That sometimes in this masculine energy, men are a little bit lost in their role, and we need the guys to be able to step up and play their part. So thank you for actually highlighting that. There's a few of us out there flying the flag, so we need to kind of, that's a virus that needs to kind of go around the world. But my question is actually, here's one for you, because you mentioned like imposter syndrome and I'm not good enough and so on. It's something that I kind of work with a lot. And I found that, and this is my question for you, one of the quickest ways to dissolve imposter syndrome is looking for our own qualities. So would you maybe share with us, tell us about one quality that you value in yourself?
For me, I suppose my core is integrity, and everything that I do is about integrity, and I'm fiercely passionate about, you know, I don't stand for bullying, I don't stand for bad behavior, and, you know, signing up to Certified Proud is because I want to actually say, this is the thing, it's not just talking the talk, it's walking the walk. And, you know, I've come across within the networking field, and I do an awful lot of networking, but especially with the early morning networks, you know, it might be a red eyes or a quarter to 7 in the morning. I've been in rooms and been the only woman in the room, and, you know, I sort of laugh and say, I'm your gender balance for the morning, and the men would come up, we'd love more women in the room, and I'd say, who's doing all your kid drop-offs at school this morning?
Brilliant.
Number one. And number two, you know, I personally, I hate doing lunches in the morning. You know, the lunch boxes, oh my God, I don't want jam, I want a toast. I don't care, just eat something and you're fine. And Brian will do it. I'm like, oh God, sorry. I'd actually rather get up at 5 in the morning, be gone to networking than do lunch boxes. But men can stand up. And another man came up to me, well, maybe the men earn more. And I said, how did that happen? So you're telling me that your job is more important than her job? And I said, no. But the way I look at it is, it isn't that the men need to be more aware, but women also need to be more aware. So the three parties in solving this, women need to get more confident in demanding their rights. And I don't mean this in a bitchy way. It just means, guys, my job, my sense of identity is as important, not less than. And we need to be more confident about coming forward. So women need to actually step up, make themselves more visible and learn what that takes. And that's a huge part of where networking comes in. Men need to step up and say, I'm a parent too. That's okay. I need to own it and accept it. And for my employers, I need to push back to them, and organizations need to step up and say, for parents, it's okay to be a parent. And it does not mean you are not good at your job, you're not less than, or anything like that. Because there's so many, I've come across, I'll tell you, there's just to finish up on this, there's a whole world, and this would be another thing to explore. There's a whole world out there, and I only came across this expression about a month ago, but I have come across it in women, of secret parents, and parents who go into organizations, women particularly, will take off their ring. They will deny they have a family, deny they have children in order to get a job. And the thing, why that makes me so annoyed is, like, one, why would you want to go and work for a company that makes you feel like that? Holy God, like, where is your sense of identity and your sense of pride? And if we can't lead ourselves, how do we show our children how to be leaders? We have to learn to lead. Every man and woman, we have to lead for what we believe is right, and we have to fight for what we believe is right, and we have to give that example to our kids. And, you know, my daughter said to me, well, my son said to me once, that's mum's job. And I said, there is no such thing as mum's job. There are jobs. They don't have my title on them or my name on them. I said, there are jobs and everybody gets to do them. We share them out. And my daughter, oh, that's a boy's job. I said, no such thing. No such thing. So we need to get better at leading ourselves, but we need to step up to corporates, and the big corporates and the big accounting companies, the big legal firms, they all are systemic in creating this culture of you can't be a parent. I'm going, excuse me? You absolutely can. It makes you better, richer, more compassionate as a person. And isn't that what we want for a better world? You know, we all need to be a part of the change. It isn't a man or a woman. Women need to step up, and for different reasons. Men need to step up, and we need men to be our champions.
Brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. Thanks so much for sharing. I just, before I go back to you, Shelley, as an independent dad with 4 daughters and 1 son in the middle, you're singing my song. It's like there's a polarity that's really important. The opposite energy, the male, female, there needs to be harmony, there needs to be communication, there needs to be effective kind of understand awareness. I mean, even some of my clients, it could be a lady who's at home and the homemaker running things from home and isn't even aware of the importance of her role. Maybe he's going out to earn the money, but without you being there doing what you do, he can't exist in his role.
Exactly.
So yours is equally important, and they don't get that. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Great question, Eamon, and really great response. Thank you so much.
I found that reflective is the word I used there in the chat. And I even asked the question, does shyness push us into being more reflective? I suspect that it does.
It does, and I suppose there's a couple of things in that. You can be a shy extrovert as well, and people we tend to put each other in labels and boxes and stuff like that. But if you understand your energy, what makes you tick, it's much easier to start accepting yourself. I think shyness it does make you more reflective, but why being an introvert is a superpower, and particularly very useful for people in networking, is you're very good at listening and distilling and filtering. You're very observant of what people say and don't say. And back to sort of Colin's question, if you met somebody in the street and they weren't feeling well, like I can be in a room chairing, I chair different networks, and I can be in a room and I can literally sense I don't know why, but I have a very, very strong sense of people and their aura. And for me, about diversity and inclusion is very, very real, because people are either good or not good, and they're nice or not nice. And I want to be in with nice people and help them. And shyness, I can literally see it on people, because I have been that person who literally wanted the ground to open, and it was like an egg crashing off the ground and splatting and everything going everywhere. And I know exactly what that feels, and I can identify it in other people when I see it. So I suppose that gives me that sort of heightened awareness of being able to read people's situations and their eye movement, or an eyebrow went up, their shoulder went down, or something happened, or their body language has gone into themselves. I can literally see it. I don't even have to be looking at them. I just sense it. But what I also know, that when I'm chairing meetings, I can help bring people out themselves and feel safe, and they're not going to realize what I'm doing, but I can help bring them out of themselves and feel okay and relax. And I just, that's something I've learned about me over time. But that also comes from, I know what that t-shirt, I've got the t-shirts, got the whole, I literally can sense and smell it off people. Their body language just changes. And that's when you read between the lines. Eamon, you were talking about, I wrote that down, the 14 muscles for smiling and 42 for frowning, and read between the lines. But it's the same thing when you're reading people. People's non-verbal cues tells you everything that's going on. They don't actually need to use their words. Their non-verbal cues tells you everything. And what introverts are very good at doing is reading non-verbal cues much more so than extroverts. And that's one of our superpowers. And as a leader, as a manager, as somebody running a company, the more you harness and tap into that, the more you show empathy and compassion towards other people that you're managing or bringing into your team or your children. But it's also like, I look at my kids, and my youngest is definitely an extrovert. Oh my God, she is just an absolute chatterbox, and she's like constant. And sometimes I literally have to run away from her. She's only 3, God, I mean, and she's adorable, and she's fantastic, and she's amazing, and she just brings everybody into her world, but she's constantly talking. I'm going, just please don't call my name for 5 minutes. Just five. Don't call my name, please. Mommy, I need you. I went, That lasted 1 second. Thank you. And but the point is, you get to read people, and you can read people very well. And that is a superpower, and that is a skill. But it's only a skill when you realize it's a skill, and you own it, and you harness it, and you learn to tap into it.
Jean, that was great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As a pathologically shy person myself, my 2 questions are: first, what was the switch that got you out of your own head and into the game? And followed up quite closely by, can networking help you combat your own shyness?
So can networking help you combat shyness? Yes, it can, because what you do is networking essentially is building all of your soft skills, and it comes around communication. It comes around the articulation of who you are and what you stand for. So yes, it absolutely can, because you really have to be, to Donald's point, you have to become self-reflective. And in terms of switching point, it's probably only come very, very recently, because when I started writing a blog on networking in May, and I didn't have the confidence even last May, so this is a year ago, to tell anybody. And I didn't even tell Google when I started writing that I was writing it, because I literally had these thoughts in my head, who am I to be telling people or writing about it? But I wrote, and I just, from my observations, from my experience, I just thought, I'm seeing people struggling networking. They're struggling in person, they're struggling when they go online. And I said I could do something about it. Well, I said, nobody's doing anything about it. And then I was like, oh, well, why don't you do something about it? And that's start of the journey. But I told Google, I pressed the blog to go live in September, and I was terrified. I didn't tell anybody. And I then got asked to speak in October, and that's where I still didn't know what I wanted to do. So when people sort of say, when's your anniversary for you setting up your business? I'm not quite sure, because it's just been evolving. But I got asked to speak at something in October, and then I was terrified, because I was going, I don't know whether people are going to buy this, or whether they're going to resonate with my point of view on networking or the way I look at it. But all I have got is asked to speak again and again and again. I've been asked to facilitate. I got asked to facilitate the Institute of Directors from February, and I've been doing that, and that's led to multiple pieces of business. But again, the first time I was terrified, because these are all captains of industry. They've all been CEO of different companies and directors, and they're non-executive directors, all very, very accomplished people. But what I realized, they have exactly the same problems as everybody else. Exactly the same problems. And how I know that is because they don't necessarily say things publicly, but I get all of the LinkedIn messages going, I was really inspired. I would never have thought of doing this. I hate networking. I hate the idea. I'd never done it. I was too busy, and it's all imposter syndrome, every single thing. Because imposter syndrome can turn up as procrastination, as not trying, as perfectionism, as over delivery. Perfectionism turns up and manifests itself in each and every one of us, but all in different ways, depending on our personality type. And again, it's the more you get to know about it, when you know something about yourself, you can then work on it and do something about it. So I can't say that there was a switching point back to the answer. There wasn't necessarily a switch, but it's been a process that is, to use Colin's word, that evolution. And when I started getting good reactions in October, and then I got asked to do another thing and another thing, then I thought, now I feel braver. Now it's only like last week I went out to 2 Leos and I said, would you like to do things? Even 2 weeks ago, I didn't have that. But last week I went, you know what? I'm getting good results. I'm getting good feedback on what I'm doing and the content I'm putting out there. So I just went, hey, this is what I'm doing. And I just started sending out the emails, and I went, they say no, they say no. But
Congratulations.
If they would like somebody to talk about it, I'm your woman.
So great to listen in on these conversations. How lucky are we that we get this? Jane, you are a powerhouse. Passion just jumps off you. You're just absolutely fabulous guest. And thank you so much. Thank you everyone for your comments, because it's only the comments that really adds the richness to the cafe. It would be a lonely and quiet cafe without you here. So Colin, I'm delighted to hand back over to you. Thank you everyone for your contributions. And thank you, Jane. Back to you, Colin.
Thank you.
You can now, Jean, see why this is many people's favorite part of the show, the Princess Shelley piece, not just because of the princess herself, but because she gets to verbalize what's been going on in the cafe. And I think this is the uniqueness, dare I say it, of the Coffee 11 show, where it's you and I having a chat, as we could have just done, you and I, without an audience, okay? But the audience brings a completely new dynamic to it. There's like a third party to the conversation. And so it's like a real cafe, 2 of us having a chat, and the rest of them are earwigging and saying, did you hear that? Did you hear what she said? I just think it's wonderful. So thank you all for being part of it. Shelley, thanks for that. Eamon, great question. And a great response there, Jean. And I think we all agree, all of us that are here today, we all agree there's a conversation that's unfolding and needs to unfold at a quicker pace, because we need to leave the next generation in better shape in relation to the whole idea of gender balance or imbalance. And I, for one, I find myself being invited into this conversation, and I want to be, at risk of going down a rabbit hole, which we don't have time for now. I do think, and I like to hear what you were saying there, Jean, I do think women's groups need to invite men into the conversation and not close their doors and say, well, you're not getting in here because you have one of them. Right. Therefore, your voice doesn't matter here. I think it needs to be inclusive. So we will invite you back, if that's okay, to a Coffee 11 show special, and we'll see where it goes. Ladies and gentlemen, it's just been a joyful morning having this conversation with Jean Evans here on the Coffee 11 show. I'd like to thank the wonderful team that has come around to make this very special. Princess Shelley for heart emoji for producing today's show. Eamon Smith for Kerry Guru for keeping us safe and secure. Where's Tim Kelly for his awful Friday joke and assisting Eamon in keeping the cafe safe and secure. Katrina O'Brien in advance for making this beautiful to go out to our ever-growing international audience. And Katrina comes in every Friday and listens to the conversation, and she's making notes as to, well, how am I going to craft the edit? So we're putting her forth for an editing Oscar in time. And of course, Wigwam for making this happen, and our supporters in Limerick Post, keeping Limerick Post with hashtag Limerick and Proud. But the last word goes to our special guest today, and that is Jean Evans. Jean, it's been an absolute pleasure. Namaste.
Thank you very much for inviting me on this morning. It has been a roller coaster, actually, emotionally, just sort of unearthing some of these things. But Shelley, as you say, it's Colm's ability to unearth the Pandora's boxes that we bury. But I think all of us has a story. All of us has, it's who we are today, and we have to embrace it and understand the milestones and what has made us who we are today. And when you start finding your voice and understanding who you are, that's why I said it, like in what Colm said in the intro, it's empowering, it's liberating, and it will drive your confidence. And when you find that confidence and you can tap into it, you can do anything. So back to my theme for Network Ireland, it's hashtag dream big, because we are everything we can be. So go forth and conquer.